everyone, this is Rachel. I'm here for episode 1 of Real Talk, and it's getting real fast in that we have everything set up and we're ready to go, and then it occurs to us we can't go live from a laptop. You have to go live from a phone. So we're doing everything on the fly. I'm going to try to set you up on where I had my laptop and see if the view is still good. So we'll give people a few minutes to kind of get on here anyway, but let's try this. Can we see if we turn it sideways? Does that work?
More.
Oh, that's
yes.
better. Okay.
We're going to want to see more of you. So I feel like you should be in my spot.
Okay. You can
See how well lit it is over here?
Yep. Oh, you're hilarious. I think we're going to have to do without that this time.
What?
Yep. This is awesome, you guys. This is so beyond real life. Okay. You guys see the books? We're going to be talking about some of these. Okay. I'm sitting on my knees right now because I'm short, and that's what I have to do. Okay, we need to begin.
Trying to find your...
It's fine. It's fine the way it is. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep, thank you. We'll figure it out next time. So hey, everyone. I'm Rachel, and again, just to introduce and get started, we are... live here doing episode 1 of #Real Talk with Rachel Dawn. And the idea behind this is I just want to spend more time with you guys. I want to spend more time interacting. So my vision for this is that it is very interactive, that it's a conversation between us. So please be commenting, asking questions, chiming in. Hey, what are you learning? In the different topics that we're talking about. So because this is our first time around, I didn't know how it was going to go. I didn't know how interactive it was going to be. So I brought a couple friends with me so this can be very organic and we can actually be having a conversation because that's how I want this to go. So I have Talaria and Jenny with me. Really great friends of mine. If you guys have seen my book trailer, they're in there. They're kind of like a big deal. But both of them, so the topic that we're going to be covering today is Nobody Likes a Negative Nancy. And it's overcoming negative thought processes and patterns. And both of these girls, I have personally seen them walk through these things and really apply the principles that we're going to be talking about today in their own lives. And so I'm excited for you guys to hear from them. So also to let you know, Real Talk we're growing, it's organic, we're figuring it out too. So not every episode of Real Talk is going to be me with guests. I would like to have different guests on. I already have some lined up, but I'm really excited to share those people with you. But not every episode is going to have guests. Sometimes you'll just have me. So, but today we've got the three of us and we're going to start chatting. So what I want to cover in Nobody Likes a Negative Nancy, again, when I sent out the Real Talk survey to you guys, the number one overwhelming response that I got was people would like help overcoming negative thought processes and patterns. And that's something that I still struggle with today. It's a daily battle. This is a daily thing that you have to do. And so we're going to talk about that. So I want to start with this quote that I actually just heard for the first time this week. And it is, whatever you hold on to in your mind will tend to occur in your life. If you continue to believe as you have always believed, you will continue to act as you have always acted. If you continue to act as you have always acted, you will continue to get what you have always gotten. Therefore, if you want different results in your life and in your work, all you have to do is change your mind. So the first point and so you guys know, I have points to talk through tonight, but again, I want this to be more of a conversation. So as you guys are submitting questions, We'll try to answer those. Tay's going to be monitoring the feed and looking for questions. And so we'll try to hit as many of those. I got a few ahead of time. I'm definitely going to touch on those. But yeah, so the first point that I'm going to talk about is change your thoughts, change your life. And I could rephrase it like this. Your life is not going to change until you change your thoughts. So this idea of changing your thoughts, of controlling your thoughts, controlling your thought patterns, it's not exclusively a Christian idea or an exclusively a biblical idea. Although all of the principles do come back, that they are biblical principles, but this idea and this concept has been widely accepted in all of the world and all of culture today. There are all sorts of books and talks and speakers and resources that cover the idea of controlling your thought life. In fact, there's a pretty popular book called The Secret, where the author talks all about the law of attraction, which is what we're going to hit on a little bit today. So the idea is that whatever you think about the most, the thoughts that you hold in your head, are the things that you're going to attract to you in life. They're the things that are going to happen in your life. And so it's not necessarily a Christian book, obviously. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, also not really a Christian book, but he talks about all of these concepts and all of these principles in here. So if you don't call yourself a Christian, or you don't know exactly where you sit with this whole God idea, please hang with us today. I want you to be a part of this conversation too, just because I know that there's going to be a lot of valuable principles and concepts that we're going to talk about that are still applicable to your life as well. So change your thoughts, change your life. What do you guys think about that? How do you want to dive in there?
Let me try.
Or if
Yeah.
I have my okay, so we're gonna dive right in. So that's the overall theme that we're gonna be talking about. Is in order to change your life, you have to change your thoughts. You've got to start there. So first, before we dive into the next bullet point that we're gonna cover, I want to lay some groundwork. So I want you to understand that there is a battle going on for your mind. It is a literal battle. And you have an enemy. And whether you call him Satan, the devil, evil, negative energy, karma, whatever you refer to that negative source as, it doesn't stop bombarding your mind every single day, trying to fill it with negative thoughts and wrong thoughts and things like that. And it is a battle. That's why I love that Joyce Meyer's book, it's one of her most popular books. It's been around for ages and ages. It's called Battlefield of the Mind. I love that it's called that because it is a literal battle, and you're going to have to be aggressive and you're going to have to be strategic in fighting this. And so the first kind of point along with that is you don't have to think all the thoughts that come into your head. So just because a thought crosses your mind, you don't have to meditate on that, to dwell on that, and to accept that thought. I mean, you're going to have, again, because you have an enemy, he's going to be bombarding you with thoughts all day, every single day, trying to bog you down and things like that. And so you don't have to accept that. You can reject thoughts. In fact, the Bible instructs us to take every thought captive. That's in 2 Corinthians 10:5. And one other popular scripture that kind of goes along with this topic or this thought is, Joyce Meyer actually opens Battlefield of the Mind with it, is in Ephesians 6, Paul is writing to the church in Ephesus, and he says, "Put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces in the heavenly realms. Therefore, put on the full armor of God, so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground, and after you have done everything, to stand." We're getting a comment.
Yes.
Are we sideways?
So we are sideways.
Awesome.
So let's do.
I've been talking for 10 minutes. Sideways.
All right. Let's do this. We'll just aim. Oh, all right. Well, you scoot over.
No.
I know, but I want you to scoot over here. Can you scoot to the corner, maybe?
Oh, okay.
So we can all squeeze into one spot. I don't know who.
That's my dad. My dad's calling.
All right.
He's
Well,
probably calling to tell me I'm sideways. Because he's cool like that. Because my dad's got my back. Oh, now we only have the fan. This is a mess. It's a hot mess.
it'll get less messy.
There we go. That's
Second.
better. Jenny, you can just pop in the background when you want to say things.
Yeah.
Just come in and talk. Okay, so I read that I read that scripture from Paul in Ephesians. If you guys could focus on that, because there was a lot going on. But here's the best part: is that was the Amplified. That was the NIV translation. I just read for the first time this week the Message translation, and it's awesome. So let me read this to you because I think it's such a great visual about this concept. So take everything the master has set out for you, well-made weapons of the best materials, and put them to use so you will be able to stand up to everything the devil throws your way. This is no afternoon athletic contest that we'll walk away from and forget about in a couple of hours. This is for keeps. A life or death fight to the finish against the devil and all his angels. Be prepared. This part I love. You're up against far more than you can handle on your own. Take all the help you can get, every weapon God has issued, so that when it's all over but the shouting, you'll still be on your feet. Truth, righteousness, peace, faith, and salvation are more than words. Learn how to apply them. You'll need them throughout your life. God's word is an indispensable weapon. In the same way, prayer is essential in this ongoing warfare. So I'm going to take a break right there. I have some other stuff to cover to this point, but I want to stop talking and let you guys kind of jump in there a little bit. So you don't have to think all the thoughts that come inside your head, and we're talking about this is a battle and it's a battlefield.
Yeah, totally. So just on what you said, I figure because I read Battlefield of the Mind several years ago for the first time, and it was the first time that I had heard the message that I could have power or control over what I was thinking. That's just not something you hear.
Right.
Even if you did grow up in church, things like that. And so what I learned, what I was informed of and taught was what came right out of Romans 12:2, and that's just renewing your mind. And so a lot of her book talks about the fact that the ability to be able to start to have authority or power over what it is that you're thinking is, one, it's not just to just stop thinking those thoughts, but if you are coming from a standpoint of a spirituality, or if you believe in God, and that's where you stand, it's replacing it and allowing God, because you can't do it on your own power. Right. So that's what I learned. Like, as much as I tried, right? If I could do it on my own, I would have done it. Right. And so that talks about renewing your mind, and the way that you renew your mind is by essentially changing your programming. So yeah, I love it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, Jenny, do you have anything to jump?
No.
Jenny's got
I'm
nothing.
sorry. I'm
okay.
so distracted by the animals right now.
You guys can't see, but my 110-pound German Shepherd is just throwing himself against our back door right now, the sliding glass door, because he's afraid of the wind and things like that. So, one of the things I'm going to talk about is you can't fight thoughts with thoughts. You have to fight thoughts with words. And I'm going to dive into that in a second. But first, real quick, I want to tell you guys a story. So, one of the questions that I got when we were preparing for this and through the survey was, what do you do when you feel like a failure? And what the question was is actually, what do you do when you feel like you can't not fail? So like you're trapped in this thought process of, I am a failure, everything I do fails, everything I touch fails. And that's a place that I can certainly relate to. I talk about this a lot. If you guys have heard me talk about it before, that's awesome. Maybe some of you haven't. But I talk about it in chapter 4 of my book, Now What, actually. I tell the story about how after my divorce, the biggest thing that I felt was like a failure. And the line of thinking that I kind of fell into was, my marriage failed, therefore I failed, therefore I am a failure. And that was just entirely overwhelming. It became kind of my identity and who that I thought that I was. And so I say this in my book. So after it was all over, on top of feeling like a failure, I felt tremendous guilt for ruining my marriage. And my mind constantly raced with thoughts like, am I even capable of being married? Am I the type of person who can be in a committed relationship? Do I get bored too easily? And who would even want to be married to me now? I'm damaged goods. I was so plagued by these lies during my divorce, I even started disassociating myself from my leadership team because I felt like the bad apple, a negative influence, and that it was better for everyone else if I just wasn't around. I remember sitting in the parking lot of a training session one night, unable to will myself out of my car to go inside. All those voices were screaming in my head when suddenly, above all of the other noise, I heard clear as day, these thoughts are not mine. These thoughts are not from me. And even as far as I was from God at that point in my life, I knew that that was God talking to me. And he was reminding me, because the first time I read Battlefield of the Mind was when I was 16, so prior to my divorce. So he was reminding me, hey, this is a battle. You're being bombarded with all the wrong thoughts, and those aren't my thoughts for you. Those aren't from me. And it was such a wake-up call for me that... because when you find yourself in these situations, when you go through low or dark places in life, it's so easy to fall into that trap and that cycle of negative thinking and be unable to see past that, to be able to get out of it. It's a cycle, and you're trapped in it, and that's on purpose. Because again, your enemy wants to keep you trapped in that cycle. He wants to keep you isolated and away from other people, away from positive influences, because then he can keep reinforcing those wrong and bad thoughts. And so that's where I was. So it was so overwhelming, and God was saying to me, this isn't for me. These thoughts aren't mine. And I just remember having that revelation that, oh my gosh, like I'm believing all of these things, and like, how did I get to this place? And so I took out my notebook that I had in my car with me, and real big at the top of the page, I wrote lies. And then I started writing down all of those thoughts that I had. Then I turned the page and I wrote falsehoods really big at the top of the page, and I kept writing. And I kept writing and I kept writing, and I filled up 4 pages in that notebook. And I remember after I got them all out, I kind of looked at the pages a little overwhelmed. And I remember I laid my hand on the pages, and I said out loud, these thoughts are lies from the pit of hell, and I'm never going to think any one of these things ever again. And I put that notebook away, and I literally didn't. It was as if I dumped my head onto that page, and once those things were out, they were out for good. That didn't, right away, I didn't replace that empty space with positive things, though. I did that much later, actually. I had a friend help me go through, I only have it digitally, but there's this wonderful Promise Bible called the Complete Personalized Promise Bible for Women that I have on my tablet, so I only have the digital version. That my friend Gaynell helped me go through and pick out specific scriptures to battle each one of those lies that I was believing and combating. And so I encourage you to do that. If you're in a place where you're just drowning in negative, overwhelming thoughts, please take out a notebook, get them all out of your head, find somebody to help you find scriptures to replace them with. That's what I encourage you to do. So
yeah, I would just say, so for me, the why behind the what of that for me was, and whether it's a biblical perspective or not, what I realized is your conscious mind, the things that you're taking in on a daily basis. So the things that you're hearing, like you talked about, the things that you're reading, the things that people are saying to you, and the things that you're saying to yourself are all conscious things, right? We're awake, we're taking those things in, we're aware of them. But those are the things that program your subconscious mind. And so what I know is that your programming is what dictates how you believe.
Right.
And essentially how you believe is what's guiding your behavior. So until you change how you believe about a thing or yourself, your behavior won't be different. And so it's really about realizing, one, what is it I believe? And so she talked about those things that she's believing. But renewing your mind is basically being able to speak to the things, renewing your mind to the things that you want to believe, the things that are true, And I know that for me, I had to start telling myself what I wanted to believe about myself even before I actually believed it.
Sure.
I know that sounds silly,
Right.
but I had to get over that. Like, because it seems silly to talk to yourself about things that aren't true right now. But until I started to change how I believed, then I would never have been able to start to act or speak differently.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Right, yeah, for sure. And that goes back to the point that I mentioned earlier is you can't change thoughts with thoughts, you have to change thoughts with words. And your voice is the one that you hear the most. And so what comes out of your mouth is helping to program your mind. And in fact, yeah, do you have a point?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's very small, but yeah, I can't squeeze in here all the way. I remember starting to tell myself like what I believed about myself, or changing those negative thoughts, saying, "Yeah, this is so far what I think about myself. I have to change that." But what was even more, I don't know, it was harder for people would say. Let's just give an example. My sister would say, "You never return things. You never return things. You're always late. You don't show up." So I had to start telling her, because I didn't want to be that person anymore, I had to start saying, "No, I'm not that person anymore."
Yeah.
Like telling people
That's awesome.
that's not me anymore. So you have to stop telling me what I like, those negative things, and
That's
this is
really
what we're
good.
going to replace it with.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that's a big step because that takes some balls
Yeah.
to tell somebody else what to say about you.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because you don't want them to keep feeding that back to you
Right.
when you're trying not to believe it anymore.
Right, absolutely. And so today, so when we were talking about this earlier today, I was kind of running through the content with my husband, Barry, and when I was talking about, I don't just want this to be like a strictly biblical Christian thing, like, and I was talking about different ideas outside of kind of the church or whatever, and he was like, "Oh yeah, like it's a totally like there's a whole total like sports psychology thing that's all about like envisioning yourself like winning and like hitting the shot and making the basket and what I know 0% about sports, so forgive this analogy, but what I'm saying to you is that even like people in the sports realm have understood like you can't go around saying like, "Oh, I miss every shot I take, what's the point, there's no use." You need to they train themselves, and like Tay said, like it seems silly if you're not used to this, if you've never heard anything like this before. Yes, it's very silly, it's very weird up front, but it's the way that our minds work. It's the way that the world works. And so it's literally what you have to do is start telling yourself, "No, I make every shot that I take." If one of your fearful thoughts is, if you're plagued this idea of, "Oh, I'm probably going to die in a car crash today," then like you need to, every time before you leave your house, "No, I drive safe and I'm protected and I get home safe every day." And literally it's that simple and it's that common sense. But it's not common sense,
Well,
right?
it's physiological.
Right.
So there's this book that wasn't written that I know of by a Christian author.
Just kidding.
But it's called "What to Say When You Talk to Yourself." And essentially he talks about the science behind how our mind works.
Right,
so, whether or not you believe in God or not, I hope you do, but if you don't, the science is what it is.
Right.
And so I think that's an example of how, science and faith work together, because essentially he talks in that book about how the things that you input are programming your mind. And so in that example of sports, right, if you can visualize, say it's a shot, or if it's a golf swing or whatever, the more in your mind you can solidify what you want to happen, your physical body, your physical manifestation of that, if you will, is more likely to take place. So it's just the physical and the mental working together.
Right.
So there's actual science behind that, which is why the Bible reinforces essentially what science.
Yeah.
Actually, science reinforces what the Bible says.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, and it's things even as simple as what Jenny said, like, okay, in the past I used to be late all the time, so you start telling yourself, "No, I'm on time every time. Like, I plan ahead, I'm able to be on time." It's simple, everyday things like that. So, thank you. That's such a great example. Anything else to add to that section? I'm trying to share the video to my regular page, and it's not working. It keeps locking. I
can't find it.
shutting down.
Folks, share
Yeah, please share the video. If you're on here, share it right now so other people can plug in, tell your friends. Always tell your friends.
Matter of fact, share it with me, because I can't even find it. I don't get it.
That's real talk right there. I promise we're actually super tech savvy people.
I want to be, so I'm going to speak that over myself.
Yes.
I am tech savvy.
Exactly. See? Real life application right there. So the next point that I want to talk about, well, first, so let's point this out real quick. So I wanted to make sure that I made this point. So I don't know where all of you are or what you think of when I say to you, we're going to be talking about overcoming negative thought processes and patterns. What I do know is that there's an increasing number of people in this world, like almost everybody, that deals with fear and anxiety and panic. And that's a lot of, that's a mental battle is what that is. And you can overcome that. But that's not something personally, like that aspect of mental battle is not something that I deal with necessarily as fear or anxiety. So I'm not specifically going to be talking about that today. The next point that I'm going to talk about is critical and complaining thoughts and words, because that's a struggle that I have. That's real life. So, but what I want you to know is that the principles are universal, and that no matter what negative thoughts or wrong thoughts or bad thoughts that you're trying to overcome, you can overcome them by using these principles. And you had a good point to that.
Yeah, I just, and you'll go more into it,
Yep.
but I was just thinking about, on the surface, right, I wouldn't have said that I'm a fearful person or that I'm a warrior, like I worry. But for me, fear has, I've been able to identify fear in different ways, and perhaps it was just inactivity, right? I know that there are things that are purposed in my life, things that I'm called to, but then I had to look at why I wasn't pursuing those things, and so why wasn't I doing the things that I knew would take me closer to my purpose of doing the things that I know that I should be doing. And a lot of times it was rooted in fear of whatever. Maybe it's fear of success, or fear that I won't be able to, do all the things right, or whatever. Or perhaps it's control, right? If I can't control all of the circumstances, then I'm less likely to take steps or take action or whatnot. Perhaps it's isolation. So I just think that even though fear might not be the obvious culprit, a lot of times it's rooted and it can be identified in other ways.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. The root of fear can manifest in all sorts of different ways in your life. And yes, we are going to touch on that. So thank you for bringing that up. Do you have anything to add to that?
Nope, I was just trying to connect here.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yep. No, I'm trying to connect too. So this is why it's awesome, because we're just all learning on the fly and figuring it out. So, I'm so close, I can feel it. Nope, just kidding. Okay, so critical and complaining thoughts and words. Now, this is the place that I have found myself struggling lately, and here I just recently wrote a blog post about this. So, here is what I have learned in my life is that where the enemy likes to attack me is in areas that I've already overcome and that I've already told other people about. Because then he can make me feel like a hypocrite, and then he can make me feel shame, and that's a whole series of things that he likes to do in my life. And so, this whole battlefield of the mind, controlling your thoughts, controlling your thought life is something like, oh yeah, that's old school for me, like I learned that ages ago. But the enemy likes to sneak in through like back doors and back channels and get to me in different areas that I have thought that I'm already done with and I've overcome. And so, just this past, over the last couple weeks, I had realized, absolutely toxic I had become with complaining and being critical about literally everything. And so, I didn't even notice it starting or it growing or anything like that. I literally didn't notice it in my life until I was like, man, it was just manifesting itself. I felt like crap. I was in a bad mood. I was irritable. I was tired. All those things come from the fact that my mind had just been negative. And so I kind of had that revelation of I probably need to work on how much I'm complaining and being critical and negative. And so just this past week, I put on a Joyce Meyer message on YouTube, because that's something that I constantly am doing. I'm always playing either CDs or audios or YouTube in my house of Joyce Meyer or Christine Kane or Andy Stanley or Steve Furtick or somebody that speaks life into me. And can teach me truth. And so I put on this Joyce Meyer talk. This is hilarious, you guys. It was called Prepare for Increase, because that's the season that I feel like I'm in right now. Like, I'm waiting for God to increase my platform. I'm waiting on Him to increase my book sales, to increase my speaking opportunities. And this is this season that I'm in. And so I'm like, oh, this is going to be great for me. So I put on Prepare for Increase. And Joyce Meyer begins the talk by explaining how she tricked people into listening to this message, because she called it Preparing for Increase, but it was really about stopping complaining. And I had to laugh, and she said, because if I had called this message Stop Complaining, nobody would listen to it. And if I wrote a book about not complaining, nobody would buy it. And so she says, I have to hide it behind Preparing for Increase. But the point that she made is, you're not going to complain your way to increase. And I thought, oh crap, like that is so real life for me right now. And so I wrote down just a few bullet points that came from that talk specifically. And the reason I'm sharing these with you is because this is where I'm at right now. Like, this is the stuff that spoke to me in her message that I just heard this week. And so she says, complaining happens anytime we experience an inconvenience. It happens naturally. You don't have to try to complain. What you have to work at is not complaining, right?
Preach.
Can I get an amen from the congregation? So what she goes on to say, I don't think I'd be stretching it to say every time that I complain that I'm hindering the Holy Spirit's work in my life and something He's trying to do in my life. And she goes on to talk about, like, so do you understand, like, you have angels, you have guardian angels, we all do, that are with us at all times everywhere we go. And when you complain, you hinder their ability to be effective in your life. And so she said, I bet there are angels standing by thinking, I just wish she'd shut up because I'm trying to help her. And so I'm cracking up, because I'm like, that's what they're saying about me right now too. And so she says, complaining weakens your wall of protection, because angels listen to the voice of God's word. And so if you speak the word of God, you'll get some help. And the more grateful you are, the more God can bring increase into your life. So you can release angelic help by being grateful, by being thankful, and declaring the word of God, not by being negative and ungrateful and critical and complaining. And then the last point that she said that really hit home for me is, she said, God said to her once, if you're going to complain about something, don't bother praying about it. Oh, that's real talk right there. So what do you guys think about critical complaining thoughts and words?
I'm in the middle of trying to figure this out.
I thought you were going to say something. No, I think that what I've learned most is about that is how my own perspective changes when I'm complaining versus when I'm grateful for things, right? So my ability to even look at a situation, or if there are circumstances that are coming up that I am trying to get over, or if it's financial, or if it's a work situation, or something with a friendship, whatever it may be, any challenge that I might have, right? The difference of my perspective when I have been in a posture of just positivity and gratefulness, if you will, thanksgiving, is very, very different than when I have been exposed or allowed myself to be affected by negativity that's around me. So my turnaround, right, my ability to even be more solution oriented is bred from when I am speaking positively and when I am thinking more on the better side of things versus on the negative side. And so it totally affects your perspective. But also what I found is Thanksgiving is a solution. Like, being grateful for things is a way to overcome complaining and thinking critically. And so, like, one exercise that I did even recently in the last couple months was same thing. I realized that I was like, just my default had become more like joining in, like misery loves company, right? So my default had been to be on the side of complaining or just grumbling about things versus thinking, oh wait, so this is what it looks like. How can I come out of this quickly? Long story short, I started waking up and journaling. So I had a gratitude journal. So every day I woke up and wrote 10 things that I was thankful for. And in the beginning, of course, I'm thankful I'm alive. Like, I'm thankful I have food to eat. Thank you, God, for my job.
That's
whatever.
Real life, though.
That is real
That's
life.
real life.
But it was just an exercise, one in obedience, but an exercise of starting to change that thought process, right? And so eventually it became much more significant things. Like, I'm so thankful for the friendship I have for this person, because it changed the lens through which I was seeing my whole world.
Yes.
So when I was even trying to identify things that I was thankful for, it started to bring my mind out of that mindset versus when I was just naturally joining into the misery that was around me, if that makes sense. We don't do it on purpose, but if we're not purposeful about being positive and being intentional about being thankful, then we by default be negative. Or a jar. You can put a jar. So anytime you have a complaint, write on a piece of paper and, hey, I'm thankful for this. And so that'll help trigger, right? You'll start to identify those triggers that are keeping you in a less negative and less positive mindset and being able to switch it.
I found, because I was always more of a worried about maybe this is why I'm a nurse, worried about how everybody else felt, so I found that when I was complaining and focusing on my complaints, I was also taking away, you got that? All right. Just going to fix the hole in her lip. She'll be back. I was taking away...
I'm sorry. Real talk.
What happened?
Poor tea all over myself. It's all over.
It just happened today. So I'm always talking about, I want a house, I want a house, I want a house. I'm not being grateful for this wonderful place that I'm living with, the wonderful people I'm living with. And they're helping me grow so much. So here I am complaining, I don't have a house, I don't have a house. And somebody texted me this morning and said, do you have a house yet? And I said, no. And really it's not that big of a deal because I'm in a great place. And I'm living with these people who are helping me grow, they bring me closer to God. And I've never seen 3 adults and a child live better together in a house in peace.
Like there's no
And I'm like, I never express that. All I ever express is I need a house. I'm like, and so I've taken away my showing them gratitude and telling them how grateful I am to have them in my life because I'm focused on complaining.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's real good.
So I take away from everybody who surrounds me by just complaining because I should be feeding positivity to people.
That's awesome. I love your revelations. Oh no. So yeah. So are we done with that?
We can do it.
Okay. So the last point that I have to make is you think like the books you read and the people you associate with, the people that you spend the most time with. So I know it's kind of a cliche or common analogy or visual to have, but think of your mind as like a computer. And so when you're programming a computer, all of us tech savvies here can tell you about it. That when you're programming a computer, whatever you put in is what you're going to get out. It's all that the computer is going to produce for you is whatever that you're programming with, whatever you're putting in. And so you're not going to get whatever. I don't even know how to take that analogy further. But the point is that think of your mind as like a computer. And then another way that you can think of it, and I actually write about this in I think it's chapter 10 of Now What, is to think of your mind, think of your mind or your life as a garden or a field. You can go into that field every day, rain or shine, hot or cold, and chop down the weeds shooting up in your crop. You'll always have plenty of work to do because until you deal with the root of those weeds, they're just going to keep creeping back up above the ground and choking out the roots of all the good stuff you've planted under the surface. So if you're trying to change your thoughts and change your mind and control and be more positive and be whatever, but you're still like reading smut gossip magazines, or you're still listening to whatever. Like start thinking about what you're letting into your head. Start thinking about what you listen to, what you read, what you let other people talk about around you. All of that stuff matters. All of that is going in and filling up, like Tay was talking about, your subconscious mind. And then that is programming your computer to what's going to come out in your life, what's going to manifest in your life. And so, again, if you're not dealing with the roots of the issue, because what I find is when different things are manifesting in my life, so it's complaining about different things, that's really going back to a root of fear or insecurity or not feeling loved or whatever. I mean, there are so many things. And so until you deal with the root issue, I mean, this is a whole other conversation because this is about to get real deep real fast. But until you deal with that root issue, you're not going to be able to take care of that symptom or that manifestation. And so just know about that. I think there was something else I was going to say about that, but I know you have something to say about that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I read a really good book that was recommended by a mentor.
Yeah.
And it's called One Door, Two Locks by Dr. Jim Muncie. And
I'm about to write that down.
I particularly love, not that I love gardening. I have friends who are great at gardening. I'm not that person because I don't desire to be. But gardening, he gives the whole book essentially is about around that analogy of gardening. And it's one of my favorites because if you think about the things that you're reading and the things that you're saying to yourself and the things that you're allowing yourself to hear as the seeds that you're planting into the garden that is your mind, think about then the fruit, if you will, the result. And so the plant that you're harvesting or that you're growing, if your mind is the garden, is only as good as the quality of the seed that you're planting. So if you are planting good seeds, i.e. good thoughts, good words, good people into your life, into your conscious mind, then you will of course then harvest. The result will be good things. It'll be a manifestation, if you will, a physical representation of positive good things that are determined by the quality of the seed. Yeah. So if you don't have what you want in your life, right, think about the things that you're putting into it. So anyway. Yeah. I like that one.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's really awesome. Jenny, if you have something you want to add to that. So I just saw somebody ask, can you say the name of the book again? And so just so everybody knows, that's a great question.
Hey, Bethany. Good question.
Hey, girl, hey. So yeah, I see all of you commenting. We should probably be better at this. Like, hey, Crystal, good to see you. Hey, Gaynell. Hey, Susie. Hey, Michelle. Everyone, glad you're here. I think those are things that you're supposed to do during live videos so that people feel connected.
Next time we got it.
Super sucked at that. Yeah. So anyway, so we're actually going to be posting the names of, because I have a whole list of books, resources, audios, things that have helped me in this area. Tay will be posting.
Nobody knows who that is.
Talaria will be posting things as well, and definitely we can share that. But just real quick, so you know, the name of the book that she said was One Door, Two Locks.
I'm going to put it right here.
She's typing it for you. But then I'm going to post all the resources on the event page so that everybody can get them. Because I couldn't live without resources. Like, that's how I do things.
Oh, no.
So...
Ooh.
Nothing. She's got nothing.
No.
So that's fine. We've been talking for about a half an hour. We're actually over a half an hour. If you guys have any questions, shoot them at us now. But one of the other you guys can be submitting questions. One of the other questions that I got was, what are some good scriptures to help you with this battle in your mind or overcoming negative thought processes and patterns? And my answer to that is it depends upon what you're specifically dealing with. And it was really, really difficult for me to prepare this content when I was prepping for it because this idea of the battle of your mind is so broad and so vague, and that's why I love Joyce Meyer's book. You can use it almost as a reference manual, because literally, like, she goes through, like, if you're dealing with a worrying mind, if you're dealing with a fearful mind, if you're dealing with doubt, if you're dealing with anxiety, if you're dealing with a wandering mind, like, you can't focus on something, like, your mind just wanders from thing to thing, like, she has a chapter for that subject, and so it's awesome. So it depends upon what you are dealing with. will be scriptures that you can go after. So I would definitely recommend definitely check out Joyce Meyer's book, Battlefield of the Mind, if you've never read it. Definitely check out something that's been super helpful for me in the last year, which is things I've been dealing with, is the Complete Promise Bible for Women, Complete Personalized Promise Bible for Women that I mentioned earlier. It's also topical and subject-oriented. But I came up with some of kind of my favorite scriptures for the things that I deal with. So I'll just start. So Philippians 4:6 says, "Don't fret or worry. Instead of worrying, pray. Let petitions and praises shape your worries into prayers, letting God know your concerns. Before you know it, a sense of God's wholeness, everything coming together for good, will come and settle you down. It's wonderful what happens when Christ displaces worry at the center of your life." 1 Peter 5:7 says, "Cast all your cares, all your anxieties, all your worries, and all your concerns once and for all on Him, for He cares about you with deepest affection and watches over you carefully." Hebrews 13:6 says, "So we take comfort and are encouraged and confidently say, 'The Lord is my helper, I will not be afraid. What will man do to me?'" Psalm 18:2 says, "The Lord is my rock, my fortress, and the one who rescues me. My God, my rock and my strength, in whom I trust and take refuge. My shield and the horn of my salvation, my high tower, my stronghold." So all those verses just make me kind of step back and realize that God's in control and I'm not, and that I can trust Him, that He's in work in my life, and I can let go of trying to control and fix things and do things on my own.
Question.
Question.
Crystal Cook wants to know how often you're going to do this.
Yeah, thanks for asking, Crystal. So we're actually going to do Real Talk once a month. The feedback from the survey is that Sunday nights work best for everyone, and that's great because that works for me. So it'll be Sunday nights once a month. The date's going to be whatever I pick. So I'll announce it at least a couple weeks out. So you'll have time to kind of make time in your schedule or whatever.
Cool.
You guys have anything else to add?
Did you want to keep going?
Oh, no, I'm done.
Oh,
Yeah,
I was
what
just
am I
going to
supposed
say, oh, great. I was just going to say for sure, Psalms and Proverbs are all about giving thanks, and so that's a good place to start, I believe. And then I think the overarching verse or theme that Battlefield of the Mind comes from is Romans 12. Romans 12 too specifically, but just read the whole thing.
Yep.
Romans 12 is great.
Yep.
And then also 1 Thessalonians. So again, it's not specific, but it gives you a broad stroke, if you will, of how to be in that posture of thanksgiving and gratefulness.
Yeah, and I'm glad this I didn't even think about this until right now. So I actually have these things hanging in my shower. Can you guys see them? There's a glare. I have them for all sorts of topics. They're called Cling to Your Confession. And so what they are, this is a collection of scripture and confessions for you to say specifically over whatever you're dealing with. So I've got one for protection. I've got one for finances in my shower. There's one for health. There's one for my marriage. And they have, 5, 6, 7, 8 scriptures on them that are specifically for that topic that you're dealing with, that you can say over yourself every single day. So you're hearing it. So you're programming your mind. So then you're believing that truth. So these are a great, great resource. I'll post that on the page as well. I was planning to do that, but it's clingtoyourconfession.com. You can order them. They've got all kinds. So it's awesome. Are we good? We're good. Hey guys, thanks so much for joining us for some Real Talk. Like I said, this is going to be a once a month endeavor. We're going to cover different topics on each one. I believe the next topic is going to be, I don't remember off the top of my head. Hang on. I probably should have that down. Clingtoyourconfession.com. The next topic is going to be, I think it's going to be overcoming past failures. But don't quote me on that. I will post what the next topic is going to be, but it's going to be awesome. And please, please, please submit questions. Once I post the topic, please submit questions on that topic. Like I said, I want this to be really interactive. I don't want to talk about things that you guys don't want to hear about. That's the whole point of this, is I want to be teaching and talking and sharing what I have learned and what I have figured out about what you guys want to know about. And so also too, if you want to submit a topic that maybe we're not planning to cover, definitely let us know and I'll try to work that into the rotation. So I appreciate you guys. It was nice chatting with you. Enjoy the rest of your cup of coffee or tea or wine or whatever you're having, and we'll talk to you next time. See ya.